Starting with the Chicago Bears, looks like Producer Stone went alphabetical order here. I was curious. My notes are definitely not alphabetical order, just who interested me first. But the Bears were 5-12 last year, had some positive signs under Matt Eberflus in that first month of the season, and then it all fell apart in our nation's capital, or nearby our nation's capital, against the Washington Commanders. Bringing in Ben Johnson, overhauling the staff, Caleb Williams, year 2. There's some positive feelings, again, maybe about this team, but then also some sour taste going on right now, as Ben Johnson seems like he is a stickler for rules and details, which makes me optimistic. It seems, some ups and downs with the Chicago's Bear offense, but also, there's some positives with this defense too. So maybe there's a little bit of signs in that. But we're going to be breaking down the offense, defense, a thing or a player that can make or break the season, a breakout player, and then we're going to pick over under win total at the end using BetMGM's win total numbers. But starting with the offense, which just had a mock preseason game, a fan day, family day, whatever you want to call it. I think it was at Soldier Field. Ben Johnson said it was a sloppier than we were hoping we would be at this point. Most offenses are going to take a little bit of time, especially with a new regime, that seems to be just totally overhauling stuff, but not exactly where you want to be. Maybe 10 days into camp, entering week 2, week 3, entering that first preseason game. I'm still optimistic though, but spoilers. Matt, I'll start with you. Bears offense. Really, what are you focusing on this year? It doesn't have to be a total breakdown, but just really what's grabbing your eye when you're turning on or seeing them on Red Zone channel, or doing all your grading of Rome Odunze and DJ Moore and now Luther Burden. There's Coulson Loveland in there now too, but all these guys that you have to watch. But what are you watching with this Bears offense?
Yeah, Bears offense, which is like never good, somehow keeps me really busy from a receiver charting standpoint. I really with this team, I'm not so like worried about how they start the season. I'm really concerned with what they do in the second half of the year. This is a team that starts off Minnesota, in Detroit, and versus Dallas in the first 3 weeks. Like, that's not exactly like, all right, like smooth sailing right from the jump. And then they have a week 5 bye. Like, I actually think, again, I'm going to be really interested how they come out those 3 weeks after the bye and then again in the second half of the year, because I don't think this is just like Ben Johnson comes in here and sprinkles the magic pixie dust and makes this offense better. You mentioned this. He is a timing details coach. I talked to Rome Odunze on the fantasy show about a little less than a month ago now at this point, and he was like, yeah, all the stories you're hearing coming out of camp, it has been exactly that. It has been a lot of like, he's hard on us, and Rome's like, I love that. And that is what those guys need, because that was clearly the accountability and like the details were just utterly lacking last year. So I think that, I'm excited about the Bears offense. I'm really excited about how they're going to deploy some of these players here, because they do have a lot of fun offensive players. I think hearing Ben Johnson talk about Rome Odunze as a prototypical X is like just awesome after how he was used last year in this really kind of
I thought that would excite you a little bit.
Yeah, that was just stupid. But even stupider, even dumber than the than the Rome usage was the DJ Moore usage last year, where I was actually tweeting with your old co-host Robert Mays yesterday, Nate, talking about like, yeah, he kind of had the alignment of like Andre Johnson, but the screen usage of Kadarius Toney, which is just a really atrocious blend of football, and seeing like him take snaps out of the backfield. Like, I've been saying for 3 years, I want somebody to use DJ Moore like in a way that the Niners use like a Deebo Samuel, not like the up the gut runs, but get him in motion, get him in space.
Tosses.
I think that's going to be really, I think that's going to be really cool to watch, but I just want to caution people that it might take until the second half of the year for all of this to come together, because it is a complete and utter overhaul of what was an atrocious unit last year.
Yeah. How do you think, maybe with the tight end usage and everything, that this is kind of like these guys slot into a nice spot? Is there an angle for Luther Burden to kind of get in here at all? Because I know people have interest in him. Maybe not us, but people have interest in him.
Yeah, I like Luther Burden, and I do think that he was a signal to that this team was pushing DJ Moore. So, like, tell me how DJ Moore play, because I think that those guys share a lot of like overlap in skill sets. I think that if Luther Burden hits his peak, he probably is used and wins in a DJ Moore type of fashion, where it is a lot of in space stuff, but he can win against man coverage. But you don't want to be you want to deploy him off the line of scrimmage at the flanker position. You want to move him into the slot. You want to move him in the backfield. Whereas again, I think Odunze has this like his own individual role. Like, I think he's going to be on the field the most of these wide receivers. So, and I think they're going to play a lot of 12 personnel. I mean, I'm really excited about Coulson Loveland in this offense, and obviously Ben Johnson is too. They took him 10th overall, but I think they're still going to play a lot of Cole Kmet. I mean, I don't think that, and I know the quote got kind of aggregated around, but Ben talking about, hey, the guys I trust to be in the right place at the right time and do the right things right now are not the rookies. You know, he named off Olamide Zacchaeus before saying like Coulson Loveland or Luther Burden, which I mean, that's not to be that's not that surprising. So I think like all of these guys, like there's a lot of young pieces here. Even a guy I'm talking about is like, oh, he's the established X receiver. Like Rome Odunze is in his second season. So there's a lot of guys that need to kind of grow here. I do think, again, the second half of the year, that's when it's going to be really interesting to check in on these guys like Burden and Loveland and Odunze. And of course, Caleb Williams obviously has to play really well for this all to work as well.
No, great note about the bye week. I was interested when their bye was too, because I thought the same thing. They could have a little uptick after that as I kind of clean things up. Charles, what about you? What are you focusing on their offense? Kind of like what's grabbing your attention?
I just want to see if Ben Johnson's presence plus the offensive line additions alone are enough to get them just not to be the worst thing you've ever seen on like first and second down. Because if you look at, because there's so many plays last year where, or I guess so many times when you're watching them, you look up and it feels like they're always in third and long. But you go back, you look at some of their first and second down stats last year. I mean, they were really just awful. 28th in explosive play percentage. 32nd percentage of plays on first and second down that go for a first down. They were 32nd in sack rate at 9.3%, 28th percentage of plays that go. 28% of plays that go for 0 or fewer yards. I mean, this offense is running to a damn wall on first and second down, and then you get to, you're playing all these heavy third downs. I think their average distance on third down was about 8 yards last year. So that's a rookie quarterback behind an offensive line that isn't very good. And we all know that back in Detroit, they ran the ball really well. They protected Jared Goff really well situationally. And it's not going to look like that, but maybe there's a middle ground between where they were last year and what Ben Johnson has done. Like if they could just be like an average offense on first and second down and give Caleb Williams some more like reasonable playmaking opportunities and he can cut down some of the sacks. That's kind of what Ben Johnson is here for. So I guess more stability on early downs to try and avoid all the disaster they faced on late downs.
Yeah, I had notes on the run game too, because I said just to be average in the run game is going to help so much, because it's just they were not efficient or explosive, and it's like, can you just be one of them? just average at one of them, And the back half of the year, they're just really dropped off. This entire team did. I can't reiterate that enough. But the thing that I wouldn't say worried me, but kind of was like was they really outside the 7th round didn't really upgrade the running back room. I like Roschon Johnson as kind of a situational guy, a role-playing guy. But last year they were 31st in yards after contact over the back half of the year, kind of the running back stat. But, speaking about their room right now, I think Roschon Johnson's going to be that bruiser for them and the protection back. That's why I liked him a little bit even coming out of college. But overall, because he only had 55 carries last year, I looked it up. Running backs with 50 or more carries, he was first in success rate. I did not know that even going into this kind of exercise. 50% of his runs, 51% almost, were successful last year, just above Bijan and Tyler Algier in that great Falcons run game. He's good in short yardage, 6 to 9 short yardage runs, which I define as 3rd and 4th down and 1 and 2 yards to go, were successful, which is about league average. And I think that could be a little more successful with Joe Tooney and Drew Dahlman and Jonah Jackson potentially in short yardage as well. But why I'm bringing that up is I have to mention the name DeAndre Swift, who isn't my favorite. He could be explosive, but is my favorite runner in the world. This is actually kind of perfect to paint why maybe I don't really like DeAndre Swift as a runner. I don't think his vision's very good. He doesn't really like to run between the tackles. So that same short yardage stat. Okay, over the past 3 seasons, there's 3rd and 4th down, 1 and 2 yards to go. There are 69 running backs with 10 or more short yardage runs. Any guesses where DeAndre Swift ranks? So 69 running backs with 10 or more short yardage runs in the past over the past 3 seasons.
66.
65th. 65th. Only above, well, he's tied with Kenneth Gainwell. You know how big Kenneth Gainwell is. I know I really like him, but Jerome Ford, Cordell Patterson, who wore number 84, and James Robinson, who was on the tail end of his career. So yeah, that's kind of like just to paint it. 65th out of 69 running backs for the last 3 years. Roschon Johnson should take that role. This is big in Ben Johnson's world. This is the David Montgomery role. So also a vulture for touchdowns if you're interested into that in fantasy. But then they drafted a running back out of the 7th round. Kyle, I got it down earlier. Monungai got some coaching praise throughout camp. Like, so I'm keeping an eye on that because the run game has to be key because that's going to help out Caleb Williams. And I think their whole identity, if you focus on Ben Johnson, I don't think that's going to change. I got to reiterate, I think he's got some Sean Payton to him. And they have Sean Payton's former offensive line coach as their line coach. Like, there's just that stickler for the rules. All this is just screaming Sean Payton-ish stuff to me, which is run game focused. So I really want to see those guys take a leap because it's going to be huge for them. But do have to one more stat here because obviously the Caleb Williams is the main focus, but we'll probably talk about him a ton over the year. Obviously the focus, but we have to talk about what's going to help him. Receiver screens. This is interesting to me because the Lions were so good on receiver screens. Some of this was because of the line, but they were third in suplex rate, success rate, explosive play rate on a receiver and tight end screens last year, only behind the 49ers and Chiefs. DJ Moore, this is all we want to talk about, Matt, with DJ Moore. No receiver has been targeted on screens over the past 3 seasons more than DJ Moore. And nobody has more receptions on receiver screens. He has 60 receiver screen receptions over the last 3 years on 63 targets. He's 6th in first down.
I want to know
rate,
how many of those were last year. It's probably,
I looked at the last 3
60.
seasons.
I would almost guarantee you it's like close to 30.
I think it was 30. I think it was like when I first had the filters on, but I'll look it up for you afterwards. He was pretty successful on it, but it's a lot. Rome Odunze, though, I had some time on my hands this morning. So I looked up the college stats. Good on screens. 12 first downs on 17 screens in college. I think we've talked about this, Matt, before. This is why we like him. He kind of has that burliness to him as well. But yeah, just there's some stuff that I'm really optimistic about this team, but you got to see the offensive line and the run game has to be, the floor has to be lifted of this offense. I think Caleb has some special stuff to him, but he has to get some stuff to incubate some of that. And I think it's going to take some time, but man, the run game helping out third down, which you mentioned, Charles, to get to third down, I should say. This team's going to run the ball a lot on third down. Remember, Ben Johnson loves that to set up, to then go for it on fourth down. So there's some stuff that's going to be interesting. There's going to be some ups and downs, but I'm really optimistic about where this offense could be. Coulson Loveland, of course, Ozzie Trapilo, they're starting at left tackle. Little hesitant on that, but he's going to have some help next to him with Joe Tooney and stuff. So yeah, I am just overall optimistic about where this offense could be at the end of the season. Even if week 8, it might be ugly. Week 3 might have a bad week. Week 12 might have a bad week. I think overall, when we look back, we're like, wow, they're feeling pretty good about where this team is at, where this quarterback is at as well.